Welcome to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. This is John McGlynn, and we are going to have a show today. We're going to talk about the NFC North. We're not going to be just Bears homers as much as we'd like to be, but we're going to try and cover all the awesome teams in the NFC North as best we can for real life and for fantasy football purposes.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Every show, Chris Joel Smith, the mailman, checks in with a who. Usually it's who. Today it's who. It's us, JT or Chris. It's us. Jamie Perrog, another regular contributor, a listener. Thank you very much for joining today. But what we have today is a special guest, Jim Coventry. What is going on, brother?
Always a good time to talk football because football is life 365 days a year.
This is great. There's 3 Illinois people in the building today, so we get to talk about, we're not going to, is the Bears your favorite team, Jim, or no?
One of 32 to me. Once I began doing this for work back in 2006, 2007 maybe, it was very fast. It all became about having the best takes. My takes were way more important than teams. I love football more than ever, but there is no one team that moves the needle. I have zero emotion toward the teams, just full enjoyment.
Isn't that funny? Like, JT, me and you do C2C stuff too, and I was always Notre Dame, Miami Dolphins, and Chicago Bears my entire life. Blah, blah. Now it's more about, like, I care about my fantasy football teams more than I do anything that goes on in the NFL. I love watching the Red Zone all day Sunday. I can sit in front of the TV for 7 hours of commercial-free beer and just call it an awesome day with all my buddies in the garage. But I was so sick of, like, watching, rooting for Tom Brady to beat up my Dolphins or hoping for Brett Favre to score, 4 touchdowns against the Bears. And it gets old. And JT, when you start throwing in the C2C aspect of this stuff, me and you were into college football, and I absolutely love it now. How much did that change things for you too, getting into college and the NFL stuff?
Oh, you know me, I'm such a homer. I still love my teams as far as rooting for my teams, everything. But I know what Jim is talking about because honestly, when I was in sports journalism full time, I was kind of like Jim. I enjoy the games and I enjoyed everything, but really my fandom was gone because I was at every game, working every game. I wasn't drinking with my buddies and having fun. I literally was working before and after every game on Friday, Saturday, Sunday for high school football, college football, and the NFL every week. So when I was doing it full time, I was the same way. My fandom really dropped because I was just in it all day and it was all about the work. I get to have a little more fun with just the fantasy side of things. So I still, fantasy, to me, it's still important. And I still have my teams. I love my teams. You know me. I take my Steelers and my Colts players whenever I can. College side, I have way too many teams on the college side. I went to way too many colleges. I like too many colleges growing up. I'm one of those weirdos. I like everybody all over the place. So it does affect me on how I pick some things sometimes, but I try to at least be honest about it and be like, I like this guy more than this guy because I like this team and I want to root for him. So at least I try to at least throw that caveat out there that it is because I do like this team. So I kind of want to pick the guys I want to root for. A lot of the times that's where I'm maybe different than some other analysts as far as that's concerned. But it does affect you when you're full-time in it every day. It definitely changes how you look at things. I totally agree with Jim on that.
I may or may not have drafted Riley Leonard in about 15 leagues this year as my 6-12 or 5-12 pick. So
love it. I absolutely love it.
So what we got going on today is we are going to talk about, first of all, our Scott Fishbowl drafts. JT just had one last week. It was in Cincinnati. JT, I'm not going to lie to you. Me and Jim are sweating right now because Tootsie Pop is in our division. Okay. And today's her birthday, first of all. Happy birthday, Tootsie Pop. Second of all, she is dangerous. So we have to really watch out and navigate around all of her picks. That's going to be number one, priority numero uno. So we'll do that. But JT, what happened to the Cincy draft?
Yeah, so I was at the live Cincy draft last week, and we had a nice pod on going for two. Hosted a podcast with about 6 or 7 of us that were live drafting in Cincy. It was a good time. We got through the first 10 rounds. They kind of locked it in. Said don't go past 10 rounds this year because last year my team or my league, I guess I should say, was flying. We got through like 16 rounds, but I guess they wanted people to be able to get up, have a little more fun. Currently, we're sitting at 14-8 right now. So we were done last Saturday. So we've gotten through about 4 more rounds in the last 4 days. I can break down my team for you real quick. I'm out of the 12 spot here. You guys can laugh at me all you want here, rip me. So I got Justin Jefferson, first round, CeeDee Lamb, second round, third round reversal. I jumped in there and took Travis Hunter. Got the IDP portion. I don't know how much it's going to count for, but if it's a little bit, it's going to help. Took Mike Evans in the 4th, Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 5th. Finally came off the wide receiver train and took David Montgomery in the 6th. Then I finally went QB. I was kind of waiting, holding out, and finally pulled the trigger in the 7th with Justin Herbert. Then went Dak Prescott in the 8th. Josh Downs, a little people were like nervous. I was like, you're taking Josh Downs so long. I'm like, I love Josh Downs. I think he's wide receiver 1 for the Colts. So I took Josh Downs at 9. The longest I've ever gone without taking a Colts Steelers player. So I was holding out there. And then I came back and I just, it was a reach by far, but I felt like just to finish off the draft, I'm in the Indianapolis Colts division. I had to finish out with Anthony Richardson at the last pick of the 10th round, just for the high upside. I was like, I'm doing it. I just feel like you got to finish it off with a Colts player at the last pick in the Colts draft. So that's what I did. And then since then, I've added Najee Harris, Zach Ertz, and Trey Harris for my little double up, hopefully, with Justin Herbert. So that's kind of where we're at. We had a good group, fun times. I tell you what, the strategy is wild this year. Everything is a flex. So I had to get my mind wrapped around that. Like, I kept looking like, ooh, I better grab a running back soon. And then I'm like, I don't have to play running back. What am I doing? Like, but I just, getting yourself out of that position, like positionless, is the toughie. So I would definitely say that was something I would look for. I started trying to go like, okay, let me look at player projections and let me look at more as that as opposed to what position I need. I did notice we did see quarterbacks go early, but not even close to as early as in the last couple of years when you needed to have 2 guys at Superflex. Obviously, you can still play 2 guys at Superflex, but it definitely pushed guys down the board. As you saw, I didn't go Herbert and Prescott till the 7th and 8th. And when I took Herbert in the 7th, it kind of started to run through the end of the 7th and in the 8th round. And right after that, in the 9th, all of a sudden we saw QBs going left and right there after the top 4 or 5 guys went in like the first 2 rounds.
You know what? This is as a person that grew up playing 2. I mean, we were playing 2 quarterbacks, mandatory starting 2 quarterback leagues for probably 15 years. So Superflex was kind of a break. But now in a league that quarterbacks don't matter, their scoring is like worse than running backs and wide receivers. I was like, oh my God, this is. I did a couple of drafts and it really kind of hurts your feelings not to draft Josh Allen in the first couple picks or Joe Burrow or things like that. It's like, man, I know they're worth some coin, but at the same time, the running backs and the tight ends are just worth so much more. It's like you have to navigate on those guys so as soon as possible. I'm going to ask Jim.
Josh Allen did go number 1 in our draft.
That's wild.
It was wild. I was a little surprised. I walked around, kind of looked at a lot of the boards to kind of see where guys would go, and I have to tell you, it was all over the place depending on what draft you were in. I was hoping I could get JT at like the 3-1 at the turn, and maybe I was definitely consider taking him at the turn, the first turn at the 2-1, but he went 1-9 or 1-11 in ours. But then I walked around and he was going late second, early third in a ton of drafts where he went 1-11 in ours, but you got to assume in the Colts division, he's going to go earlier. Same thing with CMC, Christian McCaffrey. I was going to take him at 3-1 if he got back to me. He went the pick right after me at 2-2. So, and then I saw him going, a little later in a few other leagues. So it really was league dependent walking around where people were taking people. So I was really trying to keep my eye on where people were getting values at the live draft, being able to see where some people were getting some guys in certain areas, and then just trying to keep my eye out for that value and not put myself where I was like, oh man, I got to take a position here. I really wanted tight end earlier, But McBride and Bowers went right off the board, 1-8, 1-9 back to back. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit tight. I'm going to take a lot of wide receivers because, again, the thing I always have to remind myself is it's about scoring points every week in Scott Fishbowl because they take your average. If you make the playoffs, your average, and then add whatever you score in the playoffs onto your average. So having that high average during the regular season makes a huge difference. So that for me was like, I got to make sure I was like, I like the wideouts. They're a little more consistent. I want points. So I just kind of kept taking wideout when it got to me.
Yeah, the running quarterbacks are especially valuable. The Josh Allens, the Justin Fields, the Lamar Jacksons, guys like that. So yeah, that's I'm gonna ask Jim here his strategy because I'm not going to tell you mine because I want to make sure I know what Jim's doing so I can cheat off him or snipe him on every pick. He's got the 1. I'm the 12. We're in the same division in Madison, Wisconsin together. We're in the same team.
League. So, same division even.
So Jim, what are you doing?
I remember the one year me and John were in the same division. It was a terrible idea. We were just sniping each other left and right.
Oh, it was terrible.
So it's like I was like, we can't be in the same division anymore because we just know each other. We know what we like. We know what players we want all the time. It was just terrible.
Jim, what are you doing in the division? What's your strategy? Tell me all about it so I can take notes right now, okay?
So, look, it's as simple as it gets. Basically, I look at the scoring system. I take my player projections. I apply the scoring system. There's a points scored league, basically. So, basically, I just ran my list of who's in what order. Now, the way I have them scored, the highest scores be Barkley, Bijan, McCaffrey, then Chase. But you know what? When they first initially launched this, they didn't come out definitively and say it was third round reversal yet, but I just found out it was. Didn't care whether it was or wasn't, doesn't matter. But now knowing that, I think I'm just going to take Chase first. I plan on taking Barkley, but if it's third round reversal, I think I have more likelihood of getting every week health. Chase had 1 year where he missed 5 games, but I think I have a better chance of health with a wide receiver at 1 than a quarterback or a receiver. And I have Chase as my 5th scorer or 4th scorer, I should say. But I'm going to take him first. The rest of it is whoever is next in my point total list, because again, it's positionless. So I don't care.
Right.
It makes no difference. So I'm just going to go down my list.
That 2.5 points for receiving. I mean, that's insane. If you're going to get the number 1 wide receiver on a 2.5 points per receiving, that's not a bad. I see people taking Ashton Jeanty all the time, and it's like, man, he hasn't even touched the ball in the NFL yet, and he's on a terrible team. Like, there's no right way, there's no right strategy when to Fishbowl. Like some of the guys, like I think Scott said that he's been in it, he's never made the playoffs except for like 1 year. He's been in it since like year 1, and it's ridiculous how you think you know what you're doing. And I've been in this for I think this is my 9th year now. But man, sometimes I think I have the best team. The biggest problem I always have is the bye weeks. The bye weeks and the injuries toward the end of the season, especially like week 1 of the playoffs. You got to make sure all your guys do not have bye weeks in the playoffs because losing, Mark Andrews got hurt 1 week and then Travis Kelce had a bye and everything it was like bye apocalypse and injury apocalypse all at the same time. They got ousted. And then, of course, JT, as you know, the rest of as soon as you get knocked out, your team scores 312 points every week for the rest of the time of the tournament. It's like, oh, yeah, man, whoa, that 1 week killed me.
John, that was what buried me last year. I had a ton of week 12 buys. I had a bunch of Colts and Ravens players and Steelers. I had a ton of week 12 buys. I ended up making the playoffs. I had all those buys. I ended up missing the second round cutoff by 1.5 points. 1.5 points total. And that's why I was saying, even if I would have just scored a little more during the regular season, 1.5 points total, and then my team went freaking off the next 4 weeks, I would have been in the semis for sure. I started scoring points left and right. That's why my strategy is right. So I just got to score points. I got to get that average up for hopefully when I make the playoffs. But yeah, you never know. Here's the thing I said too. A lot of us are in rookie fever right now because we're all doing dynasty rookie drafts. I got to adjust that brain to redraft. Oh, who do I need just for this 1 year tournament? And sometimes I get a problem when I do that because I'm like, I love all these young guys. I want to take young guys. And I'm like, I got to take guys that are going to show up every week and score. And so that's trying to adjust because usually I don't even get into redraft mode until about August. Do I think like, okay, who am I taking in these one-off leagues? But yeah, that's the biggest thing for me is like, hey, yeah, you like that young guy. Yeah, I like Emeka Egbuka a ton, but you got to take Mike Evans. Like, what are you doing? Take Mike Evans, dude. So it's just those type of things, Yeah, do I love Dak Prescott more than a lot of these other quarterbacks? No. But do I like Dak Prescott this year, especially when I already have CD Lamb for the stack? Absolutely, I do. So I think you just trying to get my mindset. And I think that can struggle for a lot of us in the fantasy space, especially when we're heavy dynasty players, is like trying to get that mindset around that, hey, get out of the dynasty mode and get into 1 year, 1 year redraft mode.
Yeah. I'm looking at Derrick Henry and Trey McBride at the 12-13 turn where I'm at right now. That's kind of like, I'll give it away. But if Derrick Henry gets the volume he had before, I'm not going to get the Saquons. I'm not going to get the Bijans. I'm not going to get those guys. A lot of the top tier receivers will be gone already. I'm not going quarterback yet, but I think that's what I'm going to look at the turn. So, yes, you need to start doing best ball leagues. I'm not doing best ball.
I know John's not a best ball guy at all, but Jamie's got a good point. If you do best ball drafts, it does help you get your mindset around like a 1 year playoff thing. So if you do best ball, that does make sense. Kind of getting your head wrapped around the kind of redraft format. So
Joe Castleman, my neighbor right across the street, he says he is ready for 7 hours of commercial-free football, and it's only June. Joe, I was ready for 7 hours of commercial-free football the day after the NFL, after the Super Bowl. So me and you, I'll be in your garage all the time, Joe. Don't worry about it. That's I walk to Joe's house. Joe walks to my house. It's the best combination in the history of neighbors. So it works out nice. But anything else you guys want to add for the Fishbowl, or should we just jump right in the NFC North stuff?
Man, just if you're lucky enough to get in, and make sure you go sign up. I saw so many people this year were like, man, I didn't get in. I'm like, did you sign up? They're like, I think so. And they go look, and they didn't. So sign up. I'm already signed up for next year. I make sure you get signed up every year. As soon as sign up's open, I immediately sign up for the next year to make sure I'm getting in. It's so much fun. Obviously, the online draft is great. It is fun. But if you ever get a chance to go to a live draft, go to the live draft. That's where I met John. If it wasn't for the Chicago live draft, I don't know if me and John would have ever met and wouldn't be doing these podcasts together. So, you meet so many cool people, so many different people. And just John and me, we're both on the same page. Live drafting is our favorite part. Now, it's harder to do the strategy live, but as looking at the numbers and everything, but it's so much more fun.
Jim, just a heads up on that one. JT, we're doing a Chicago draft. I ran the first Chicago, the in-person draft. I ran it at Bourbon Street. So we had the main area all walled off to ourselves. This guy walks in with a whole cooler of his beer from his own brewery. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He's got JT owns like a brewery and a restaurant in Mahomet, Illinois. So he shows up with an awesome, like big ass, like what kind of, it was like one of those super expensive coolers too, filled up with his own beer. I'm like, this guy's awesome. The best thing ever. And then I'm like, give me your number, dude. We got to start hanging out. He owns a brewery. This is the best thing that ever could have happened in my life, So I'm like, you want to do a podcast together? Ever since then, it's been like me and him have been like thick as thieves. It's been a great. But that's what these Fishbowl things are for. Getting to know your people around your area. This is the same as like I run these Mighty McGlynn Dynasty home leagues. I got 8 leagues now, and it's just so much fun. Like being leagues with Pat Fitzmaurice and Nick Scripp and neighbors, and Taglier was in my league before he unfortunately passed away. Like all these people you find. It's just so much. Joe Castleman, I wouldn't. Joe is more of a, he says he doesn't know much about, as much as I do about fantasy stuff, but then the guy's an absolute stud. He's, having guys in your league that don't even have don't create content are some of the best people that you have in your leagues too. They do just as much research as everybody else does, but it's just so much fun being in home leagues and drafting in person. I have 4 leagues on the same day drafting at Draft Picks in Aurora coming in like 2 weeks. So I'm going to have 4 leagues all drafting at the same time, like, in just my home league drafts. It's going to be an absolute blast. So if you guys, JT's going to drive, he's got something going on. He's going to drive 2.5 hours to be at the draft. So I really appreciate that, him being there. So, yeah,
I got to hope my dad doesn't yell at me. You got to leave the car show early that he and I run in our town. I was like, John, you're killing me. But I was like, all right, I can do both. I'm going to try to get both in. So I might be on the phone for the first pick or two, but we're going to try to make it work.
All right, let's start with these NFC North divisional breakdowns. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all these teams. We're going to go Bears, and then the Lions, then the Packers, and then the Vikings. And Thor is not going to like what I have to say about J.J. McCarthy, but we'll talk about that later. We'll start with the Bears. So I traded my butt off. I traded so much stuff away this year to get Caleb Williams on a bunch of teams. I mean, to the point where I traded like Jared Goff and Jameson Williams to get Caleb Williams on a team, and people were like, Jared Goff's going to score the same amount of points as Caleb Williams. Why would you do that for? And it's like, hey, man, I'm looking at the future. I see Jared Goff's future like depreciating, where I see Caleb Williams getting all these tools and just, a year, 2 years from now, he could be the number one. He legitimately has a chance to be the number one quarterback in the NFL with the tools he has. So if I was going to start with just Jim, how do you see Caleb Williams as far as in the future? I mean, am I being too optimistic on Caleb Williams, or do you think he has an opportunity to be a top tier, like tier one quarterback for fantasy football and in the NFL?
The truth is, whatever your narrative on Caleb Williams coming out of college should be back in place this year. He was given no opportunity last year. I give him a full pass for last year. Not only was the offensive line bad, but the worst part was many of the defenses in the league are running what we call these simulated pressures. It send players that you don't expect coming. That Bears offensive line was not coached. The players on the defense were in the backfield at the snap of the ball. Caleb Williams never had a chance. When he got those 489 rushing yards, he was running for his life. Pass concepts, bubble screens to DJ Moore. Well, the defense was already playing up because they knew they were going to be able to pressure Caleb Williams instantly. Caleb Williams had no advantages all year long. This year, it's quite the opposite. Completely revamped interior line. I don't know about Jonah Jackson or Reichardt's injury history, but if he's on the field, he knows Ben Johnson's run schemes, the zone blocking real well. That's going to be great. Tackles, I think the Bears tackles are fine. We know the receivers will be weaponized. It won't just be bubble screen after bubble screen. It's going to be a nice menu of scheming players open. So Caleb Williams did not have the advantages Bo Nix had. And Bo Nix had massive advantages because of coaching. Well, Caleb Williams gets that now. So I think you make an optimistic case for Caleb Williams. I believe it. I think he could finish as high as the quarterback 6 or 7 this year because of what is going to be around him. Just erase last year completely because it did not count.
I heard reports of them sticking Caleb Williams in a film room by himself and making him watch film without being coached whatsoever, like not having any coaching, just here, go in there and watch film and we'll talk to you in a couple hours or go home when you're done kind of thing. I mean, that is absolutely, when Ben Johnson said that he found that stuff out, and there was a big report a couple months ago, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's you start off your NFL, and he still did okay. He still definitely did okay. The upgrades now, Luther Burden coming to the Bears, that's JT's JT's a big Missouri homer. So we like Luther Burden. He's an East St. Louis guy from the Illinois. So it's just an absolute stud. And then Colson Loveland, everybody saw him playing in college. Actually, a great talent too. You don't take a guy at number 10 if you don't see an absolute talent, with a player like that. And Cole Kmet's a good tight end, but Colson Loveland is just on a different level, So let's get into the actual.
Real quick. They're both going to play regularly.
Sure.
Luther Burden's not going to be on the field a lot. If I take what I learned from Ben Johnson last year, we saw Brock Wright playing 49% of the time because they want protection. They want to have versatility in their offense. They want to be able to run or pass. And by doing that, Cole Kmet's part of the solution. Loveland's going to be a receiver. Kmet's going to block. Luther Burden's going to see about half the snaps on the field at maximum. So he's not going to play a lot. And maybe down the road, for you guys are Dynasty guys who down the road, I think you have a better picture of him. This year, don't count on much. And his ADP is actually going down every month, Luther Burden's. Every month is going down. Because people are catching on to it. I know a lot of trendsetters, are out there just explaining what's going to happen. And I don't think Ben Johnson's veering from that. So I just wanted to point that out, that Cole Kmet may not see a ton of catches, but he's going to be very involved from an NFL standpoint in their offense.
Yeah, Luther Burden is a humongous, it's one of those guys that as soon as the NFL draft happened, like the day after, Luther Burden was going like 107, 108, 109, a lot of our rookie drafts. Now, if you look at the ADP, he's at like the 209, 207, 208, 209. He dropped an entire round just because of the fact that, he's been injured in camp, and that's never a good thing for any receivers. But also just where he fell, kind of things like that, and then the team they have. And they drafted a tight end before they drafted him. So, but he is a guy that in the middle, if you're in Dynasty, wait till the middle of the season when he's not getting much playing time and pounce all over that guy because he's an absolute player.
Yeah, John, I was going to say, I'm a Luther fan, that, but I'm definitely taking him for the future. If I'm taking him on my team, I'm not expecting to plug and play him in lineups this year unless somebody else gets hurt. I'm taking him because I believe in him as a player and I believe in the talent, and they're going to end up using him right. I do agree with Jim. I think they're going to play a ton of 2 tight end sets, so that I will jump on his Caleb Williams point. the thing is, the Bears were a disaster last year. Like Jim said, coaching was a disaster. But if you look at Caleb Williams' stats, just straight fantasy stats, he was right in line with a ton of guys that everybody say are great fantasy players. So it's like, you know, a little bit of a down year from CJ Stroud. Caleb Williams technically had a better year than CJ Stroud. Jordan Love, slightly down year from the year before. Caleb Williams technically had a better year than Jordan Love. He's also had a better year than Brock Purdy. So there's a ton of guys. He threw less picks than all those guys. He was right next to them, you know, as fantasy points per game. So I think if you are like Caleb Williams, I think you have to actually be kind of pumped. You're like, he got a better coaching staff, a much better offensive mind, and they kept adding talent. And really, you think there's no way this offensive line's worse than last year. I mean, it's much improved. You got to be pumped about Caleb Williams' future. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong last year, and he still was pretty freaking good. So, you know, I am high on Caleb Williams. I think the sky's the limit for him.
Absolutely. So now we'll jump to the running back portion of the Bears, which everybody thought they were going to be replacing DeAndre Swift because of the fact that Ben Johnson, you know, already had, you know, not you know, I'm not going to say cut him, but kind of removed him from the team before, upgraded, I guess you'd call it, with Jahmyr Gibbs. But now you got DeAndre Swift. Kyle Monangai was a 5th-round pick, I believe. 7th-round pick, but he's a stud, absolute stud. And then Roschon has been a fan favorite, and we saw him play a little bit last year where he actually caught a lot of balls out of the backfield. I think he had one game where he had, like, I think it was 7 or 8 catches, or maybe even more than that. I forgot what it was, but he is he's an all-around player. He's a big dude. Now he's got some concussion issues. What are we doing with Jim? I'll start with you. What are we doing with this Bears running back? Are you targeting anybody here out of the 3 running backs, or are you just kind of like, hey, I mean, Swift's going to get his, but is this going to be like a committee field, or are we going to look at a lot of DeAndre Swift touches?
Swift is so much better than the other backs on the roster. He's going to get volume. He's not a good running back. He has no vision, doesn't really do a lot after contact. Earlier in his career, he did a little bit better with that. His ADP sliding up. It was 33 a couple of months ago, down to 28, up to 27, now recently 26. So he's still going at a running back 3, 253 carries last year. He will get volume, and he'll get some reception. So I think he's a brilliant volume play at ADP because he will finish as an RB2. So that's a great thing. Roschon Johnson, look, when he got drafted, I told everybody right away, the dude's a career special teamer. That's what he is. He's been forced into snaps because they had nobody else. In his ADP, Roschon's is steaming up. His is going way up. He's running back 50. Take him all day long because you know what? He won't have anything. He was in the bottom 5th percentile in both yards after contact and broken tackle rate. And he wasn't much better 2 years ago. Roschon Johnson will be a great special teamer. He has no business being in an NFL backfield. Just a horrible, horrible player. And look, that is what it is. Somebody will outpace him. It could be a practice squad guy. It could be Monangai. I prefer Monangai because eventually if we see Swift go down, Monangai is probably the early down back. Johnson to get some change of pace, but I don't even know if that translates into much.
JT, when you watch film of Kyle Monangai, I mean, you talk about like just a freight train bringing the noise. Like that dude is fun to watch. What did you see on tape when you watch Kyle Monangai? Is he going to be the number 2 running back on this team?
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance. The thing with him is he can block. He'll lead block. He's a willing blocker. That always helps, especially when you're young to get on the field as guys, you know, are trying to get in there. I really liked him at Rutgers. They were not a very good team, and he was a really good player for multiple years for them. I know the Roschon hate, John. I've tried to temper it. I didn't come as hard as Jim has come with the Roschon hate because I know how much you love Roschon. I know Jamie loves Roschon too. But yeah, I'm out on Roschon personally as well. I think it's Swift. If Roschon gets in, it's because of injuries, and they're just kind of have to do things. I just don't see him being the lead back there. I think for me, I would rather stash a Monangai behind Swift if it was up to me.
Yeah, I get it. All right, receivers wise, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, you know, and then you got a couple other guys on this team that are Miles Boykin, a local boy, is on this team also. But where do these touches go? Because we're going to get a tight ends in a minute too. But these are 3 pretty talented wide receivers. JT, what do we do here with when you have? I mean, it's a great problem to have this much talent in your wide receiving core, but what do you do with all this stuff? You just take Caleb Williams and leave these guys on the bench, or like not draft them, or wait for them to fall to you? What's the story with having these many good wide receivers?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for guys to fall. If guys fall in drafts, especially in redraft, if a Dunze or somebody's falling to me, I think that Burton's going to end up taking the DJ Moore role eventually. I don't think it happens this year. Like Jim said, I think he's going to be behind him. I think they kind of think he can take that, and they just took the value with Burton falling to the second round. The Dunze is the real interesting one. Top 10 pick last year. They had Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, even though he wasn't great last year, had 1 million targets. So, like, who gets those targets? Is it a Dunze? Does Burton kind of steal some targets? I thought he might have. Getting nicked up early here is not a good sign for him. I think he really needed to prove something early to kind of jump some guys. So I think he'll be in the mix, but I don't think you're going to get much out of him, at least till later down the year, and that's only if injury. So I really think DJ Moore's still a buy. I think DJ Moore is going to be really good, and the question just becomes, like, where do you rank Odunze? Where do you think I think they're going to throw the ball plenty. So I think there is going to be mouths to feed. I think Caleb Williams is going to, I'm saying it right now, he's going to push that vaunted 4,000 passing yards the Bears can't ever get a QB to do. I think they can be close. I think he can be right there. I mean, like I said, everything went wrong last year, and he wasn't that far off. So I definitely think there's going to be yards, but it might be a little feast or famine some weeks where some guys actually have monster weeks, and then you can't really count on them the next week because they kind of go in and out. So it's going to be interesting. I do think this is going to be a much better offense. The question is just who is going to be the guy every week. DJ is my guy right now if I had to take a guy in the short term, but Burton's my favorite guy long term, but I do still like Odunze.
Jim, we're talking about who's going to get the targets in the wide receiver, committee here, but then you got Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. What do you do with these tight ends in fantasy football? Are they worth drafting? Are they just is Cole Kmet pretty much at this point just relegated to be a blocking back and maybe a goal line threat every once in a while? Or what are you doing with the tight ends on the Bears?
Well, you kind of outlined this earlier correctly, John, that when you're drafting Colston Loveland with the 10th pick in the draft, he's not blocking. He is not there to block. He'll be fully weaponized. So Cole Kmet will take on the Brock Wright role from Detroit. That's what he'll take on. And he'll be very, very good at it. And he'll catch a few passes, but you can't use Cole Kmet in fantasy, even a tight end premium league. You can't use him. He's going to get about 20 to 24 catches on the year. That's probably it. But Colston Loveland, in theory, will be weaponized the way Sam Laporta was. Now, the good news for the Bears is, unlike the Lions that had a devastating running game, a devastating offensive line, well, the Bears don't have a devastating running game. They're going to have to pass quite a bit. It's going to be a pass-heavy team out of necessity, but that's good. That means there could potentially be enough targets to go around. Personally, I agree with JT that DJ Moore, and I'll pile on a little bit, is a megastar. He has just been in horrible situations his whole career. He's been the wide receiver 6 with Justin Fields 2 years ago. Last year, train wreck. He was the wide receiver 14. Right. He is if he had any real quarterback his whole career, we'd be talking about him with all the receivers not named Jefferson and Chase. He'd be right there with them. So anyway, my point is this. Moore's getting his targets. We know Rome Odunze was a top 10 pick in the draft, and we know we expected big things out of him. They misused him. They're going to get their looks. I think Colston Loveland's third in the pecking order. I think he has a share of big weeks. I think he has his share of quieter games because the wide receivers, I think, will dominate a bit more. I think Loveland, his ADP recently, last couple of days, has gone down to tight end 15. It was tight end 11 and 12. I think if he goes to 15, I think he's a bargain there. Tight end 11, it's close.
Yeah, it's really, really close. That's kind of where I have Matt too. But it's just refreshing to see a team that's built on nothing but defense for the last 100 years. All of a sudden, like, wow, we got an offense and an underrated defense too. The defense, I'm not going to say they're underrated because they did really good last year, but they're not a secret anymore. I'll put it that way. But they were very, very underrated last year, and some good coaching with all this stuff with the offense staying on the field and letting them get a breather once in a while instead of being on the field the entire game. I'm really excited about the Bears' future. So super happy. Let us move on to the Detroit Lions. So we started with the quarterback position with the Bears. We'll do the same thing here. We got Jared Goff, and then Kyle Allen or Hendon Hooker and Kyle Allen are the second, probably vying for the backup spot. But it's Jared Goff. I talked about it earlier. I kind of hit it on. I kind of mentioned a little bit. Jared Goff is a descending asset in my opinion, but he's still got a ton of weapons on his team. Jim, I'll ask you, Jared Goff, what do you think? Do you think he's gonna be able to keep up what he did before when you lost your offensive coordinator, lost your defensive coordinator, lost everything except for your head coach and the coaching staff? What is Jared Goff going to do this year? Are we expecting a decline in his numbers and his production?
Expect a significant decline. There's a lot of reasons. His ADP actually is catching up. He went from in early April, he was a quarterback 8. In May, he was a quarterback 10. Late May, quarterback 13. Now he's a quarterback 14. Everybody's catching up on this. A few things work against him. Last year, before the Lions started losing all their defensive players, we learned the identity of this team. It's like weeks 3 through 9. Jared Goff was throwing 25 or fewer passes a game because that team was leaning on a top 6 defense at the time. They were running the football, and they did not want to pass the ball. That's what they want to do this year. Their defense should be back healthy. That defense has a ton of talent. Those 2 rookie corners from last year, they now have experience. So exciting there. But Goff, losing Ben Johnson's massive. I don't care if you promote Thomas Moore, whatever, because it was sequencing of plays that kept Goff from being the player that Sean McVay kicked out of LA years back. And another problem, the interior offensive line. This team had an amazing offensive line. Frank Ragnow retires. I know Graham Glasgow's a veteran taking over. He's no Frank Ragnow. Right. 2 guards, 2nd-round draft pick, good luck. And Mahogany, 6th-round pick of last year, he's the left guard. This interior line could be a problem. And if teams are pushing the pocket on Jared Goff, he can't move. There's a ton working against Jared Goff.
Those are some really good points. And, Goff had a season to remember last year, but yeah, 100% he's values depleted for me. JT, this is probably one of the biggest, batting practice fastballs coming down right down the pipe here. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, you got Craig Reynolds and Sevan Vaki. What do you think about this running game? Are we expecting the same insane amount of goal line touchdowns for Montgomery here? What is Jahmyr Gibbs going to be a 100 million catches out of the backfield again kind of guy?
I think they want to lean on these running backs again. If Monty can stay healthy, obviously they went a little more pass heavy when Monty got hurt, other than, them really leaning on Gibbs the last couple weeks of the season. But Monty's a big part of this team. I took him, like I said, in the SFB. I like him. Whenever he's healthy, he has just performed. He has been good for this team. So he's a guy people kind of think about. They kind of forget about because he's getting a little bit older. I still think he's got plenty of fantasy value, especially in redraft leagues. But I still like him as my RB2 in dynasty leagues. I still think he's got some left. I'm with Jim 100%. This team they remind me of the Chiefs now. They want to rely on that defense. They like their QB, but they don't want him throwing the ball 50 times a game. They want to run the ball. They want to play defense. I think they're going to do that. I'm way down on Goff. If I've been able to move him, I've moved him because I just don't think he's going to throw a million times. I really do think they want to be under 25 to 30 pass attempts a game. I think they're going to lean on the running backs. I've made a couple moves for Gibbs. It's tough because he's super expensive right now. I mean, he's real expensive, but I've got him in a couple spots. But Monty's my buy. Monty's the guy I'm going to get. If people are out on him or just are trying to get younger, he's one of those vets I want on my team.
I sold at the wrong time. I got rid of Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff 2 years ago for absolute peanuts. And it's like, I know, what did I do? Yes, it cost me $100. Now would be the time to sell at their value. It's like selling Bitcoin when it was $4,000. Now it's but there's a time to get in and time to get out. And I miss that. The windows are hard to find. It's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be to get these guys at the right time or wrong time. And I love both those guys. Especially Baker Mayfield. It was kind of hard to get rid of those guys for nothing. And then they turn around and this is why you hold on to guys a little bit. Talent outshines the ADP or the opportunity is always going to be there for these guys who make a name for themselves early. Or we know that came out of college with tons of talent. But the running backs are one thing. Jim, these wide receivers. You can't find a guy with more steam on the Twitter echo chamber right now than Jameson Williams. But he's not even the best player in this team. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. They drafted Isaac Tesla in this draft. I believe it was the 3rd round. And then on top of that, they got a couple. Khalif Raymond is more of a punt returner, stuff like that. But if this is a defense and run the ball game, how does Amon-Ra catch so much? Is that going to continue to happen? And how much does Jameson Williams fit in this offensive scheme going forward? Because he's more of a gadget player and a burner down the sidelines than he is like a possession receiver. But he's changing. Like he's a great receiver. Everybody saw. I mean, he was absolutely fabulous in college. So is Jameson Williams going to is he looking for a big step in a big promotion in his offense this year?
Well, everybody wants to think so, and the offensive coordinator wants to think so, but he has a couple of problems at offensive coordinator. First one I talked earlier, that interior offensive line. That's a real stretch that's going to be anything close to what it was. And I said earlier, if Jared Goff's getting interior pressure, he's skittish. You see it all the time. He's like Derek Carr under pressure. So you really think that Jared Goff's going to be thrown downfield? I don't think so. He's not going to have time to do that. But the other thing is this. With Jameson Williams, I mentioned earlier with the quarterback, Jared Goff, remember I said his pass attempts were down to 25 or less a game through week 7 when the defense was playing well? Well, Jameson Williams, weeks 3 through 7, he averaged 2.5 targets a game. 2.5 targets a game, guys. And when the defense was beat up late in the season, he was getting 7 and 8 targets a game because they had to throw 50 times a game. They're throwing 25 times a game. Williams is not going to have time to get deep with his quarterback. Completely out on him. It's not his fault. If he was in a healthier situation, he'd be great. So now you mentioned St. Brown. He's going to get his targets, but you're paying wide receiver 6 costs. You're paying for his career year 2 years ago. He's a 1,200-yard guy, and it's fine. But at wide receiver 6, his upside's no higher than that. So he's a great player. He's going to have a great floor. But even last year, his floor games weren't like they were in that career year. Remember that career year? He had 1 game under 70 yards. It was 49. Last year, he had 5 games under 50. He had 2 games under 10, I think. So he's still a great player, and he's the guy to own. But at wide receiver 6, I can't even pay that for him.
Right. Yeah, 100%. That's it. They are definitely overpaid. Amon-Ra had such a wild season before, but I'm not sure he replicates his past performances at all. So, and then at the tight end position, Sam Laporta came out on fire. And then when the problem is when Jameson Williams emerged, Sam Laporta's stats went down. JT, what are we doing here with Sam Laporta? Because I love Sam Laporta. I thought I struck absolute gold when I drafted him in my rookie draft. I'm like, this is the best. I got the new version of Trey McBride. I got the Brock Bowers before Brock Bowers was here. I got all these guys. This is fantastic. What happens now with Sam Laporta? Because if Jameson Williams does emerge, he's the one that's going to take the hit here. What we already saw. What happens in the future? What happens going forward now?
I still like Laporta. I think, he obviously that rookie year really juiced up his value for everybody, really pushed him up. I still think he's really good. But again, if you're on a team that is going to concentrate on the run game and defense, you're just not going to see a million passes out there. That's where you're going to get a team, like the Cardinals who are playing from behind all the time. You're going to get a million passes in McBride because they got to throw the ball. And when he's top 2, I still think he's the second best option on this team behind St. Brown. I like him a ton. I'm still taking him, but he is more like, I don't know where Jim's got him. For me, he's probably more tight end 4-5 dynasty 6 in that range where I like him, but I just don't think, he's not going to be McBride Bowers pushing for 100 catches. It's just, that's not the system he plays in. That's not him as a player. He blocks way more than those guys do. So, he actually is a traditional tight end that he plays inline too. So I like Laporta a ton. I think expectations are starting to get back to more reality where, he was so juiced up there for a little bit. Still like him, but again, I think he's more 5, 6, 7 range than he is 1, 2, 3, where I think a lot of people had him like top 3 for a while.
Yeah, JT, you're right on that because he's going as a tight end 4, and it's been that way all offseason. He's not the tight end 4. I want to point out one more thing just quick. Last year, through week 7, remember, this was a defense team with Jared Goff not throwing. Remember, Laporta averaged through week 7, 2.8 targets and 7 PPR points per game. That was almost half a season. We thought he was the bust of the year. And then as the defense fell apart and lost people and Goff was thrown 50 times, then he averaged 13 PPR points the rest of the way. Again, if that defense is healthy this year, he's closer to that 7-point PPR per game guy than that 13-point game he was after the defense was decimated.
Absolutely. We got 2 more teams to cover when we come right back.
Hey, what if I told you there was a Dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of two players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players. Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go!
All right, we got to the Bears and the Lions. We have to go to everybody's favorite team, the Cheeseheads, the Green Bay Packers. We will be in Wisconsin. Me and you will be in Wisconsin this weekend. I'll be there for a concert, and I'll be there for a wedding, a concert, and then our Fishbowl draft there. But we will start out here with a very questionable asset on the Green Bay Packers, and that's the starting quarterback position. Jim, what is going on with Jordan Love? Because, I mean, he was everybody's hero for a little bit. He put up some great numbers, and then there's some games he looked like he had no idea what was going on. I'm not sure if like the film caught up with him or the offense was just calling the wrong plays. What happened with Jordan Love?
So a combination of all that, John, good question. So in 2023, the second half of the season, the league didn't really know what Jordan Love was. He hadn't been doing much in that first half of that season. And then it was perfect. Matt LaFleur's play calling with Jordan Love was able to do. And he had that great second half of 2023. Well, last year, like you said, film on him, league kind of caught up. After a while, it was very clear that Matt LaFleur realized, oh, wait a minute, this guy isn't the guy to carry the team. He's the game manager. And so they listen to this. Before the week 10 bye, Jordan Love was averaging 34 pass attempts a game. That's normal. That's great. Well, after he was in game manager mode, weeks 10 through the playoffs, those 34 attempts a game for Jordan Love went down to 24. Ooh. That's like lower than Jared Goff. 10 attempts per game. Josh Jacobs took over the offense. So I think they know right now he's a game manager. He's a good game manager. His ADP has gone down each month from 15, 16, 17. Jordan Love is now quarterback 18. So the fantasy market's catching up on that. But yes, they are not going to put the team on his back. People are happy they added Matthew Golden. Fine. That'll just take Christian Watson's place while he's out. But yes, he's not going to be asked to throw a lot. Now, he might run for a little more. 2 years ago, he was in the 240 range. Last year, he hurt that knee, and maybe that's why he didn't run as much. But he's not like a big-time runner. So, yeah, not real excited about Jordan Love.
JT,
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm out on Jordan Love. The guys were asking in the chat who we loved. I said, hey, me and Jim are on Caleb Williams. Jordan Love's the guy we're out on. Here's the thing. I think the 4,100 yards and 32 touchdowns, to me, that was peak. I think that's peak Love. I don't think we're ever getting that again from him. And if we do, he's barely getting there. He really got pushed up that 1 year. It's one of these things that, we sometimes forget about. Some of these guys get pushed up because the team plays above expectation, and then they play slightly above expectation. Then people run off with it like, oh, he's amazing. Well, the Packers made the playoffs. People were not expecting it. Love played better than people thought. The team played better than people. He was really pushed up by those TD numbers. I mean, he really was. That 32 touchdowns where they had a lot of times they got in close and he actually threw a touchdown. Kind of reminded me a little bit of some old Aaron Rodgers where they run the ball down the field a bunch and then Rodgers would get the TD all the time. So I just think if you think that Love is going to be a consistent 4,000-yard passer with 30-plus touchdowns, I just don't see it. And I just said, Jim said, I think they realize he's a solid NFL quarterback, but he is not a guy you want throwing the ball all day. And they want to hammer the ball with Josh Jacobs. I think that's the way to go. I know we'll get to some of these other guys, but I had Jordan Love on just a couple teams, and almost every one of them were orphans that I took over. I didn't draft him anywhere. He was the first guy I put up on the trade block. I traded him for a swap and a second and third round pick. I got the second, gave up a third, and got Justin Herbert before last season, and I was stoked about it. Sweet. So I'm out on Love. Fantasy, I think he's just one of those guys. I think he's a better real-life QB than he is a fantasy quarterback because I just don't think he's ever going to put up huge numbers again. I think that was just a lightning in a bottle year, 4,000 yards and 34 touchdowns.
I know a guy who traded Josh Jacobs away for like a 208 because I thought he was never going to get the same workload and he did in the yeah. I know a guy who did that, and he absolutely kicked himself in the arse every week last week because, yeah, exactly. So
I'm having fun. Sorry.
it's one of those things where it's, again, I love selling guys right before they hit their like peak value or right at their peak value. And then like, man, if I'd have waited one more year, I could have got this. And then, but man, JT, Josh Jacobs, did you think that he was going to come to Green Bay and do what he did here? Because the volume he got in Las Vegas, I thought for sure there's no way he was going to replicate that in Green Bay. And all of a sudden they just said, here, Josh Jacobs, you're our man. Go ahead. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Is this going to happen again this year?
It was wild. I had him in quite a few areas. I liked him still. I didn't know if I loved him on the Packers because I just wasn't sure what they were going to do, with the new quarterback, everything going on. I messed up like you, John. I traded him in a few situations where I was like, probably jumped the gun on that one a little bit.
Give him the fingers.
Yeah.
Right?
He's been pretty good, and I think they're going to lean back in on Josh Jacobs again. I really do. He's a guy, another one. I don't know. I haven't looked up any trades with him of late because I haven't moved him. I'm not sure what he's going for. I'd have to kind of do some evaluation on that, but he's a guy I would want. I do think that they're going to run the ball more. Again, the Packers defense is pretty good. They had been the best defense in this division pretty much consistently the last couple of years until the Lions took a big jump. The Bears have been really solid. I mean, at this point, I think these teams were putting up a lot of points the last couple of years. I think it's going to be a lot tougher to score in this division this year. I think everybody realizes it's real close. I got a ball control, run it, keep the other team's offense off the field. So I think I like the running backs in this division. I really think a lot of teams are going to start. It's going to get tight, and everybody's going to be like, okay, let's foul the ball and not turn it over. So I like Jacobs a lot this year.
Okay, Jim, we're going to switch to receiving core now because the Packers had the Christian Watson, who absolutely just, well, I mean, when you're looking at deep posts, this guy he ran. There's no way to stop him on those passes, but hamstrings and injuries, things like that, just kind of put him. It's over now for him. I feel like he just can't. He's not going to be able to climb his way out of the injury closet now. So they unlike something they ever do, they drafted wide receiver Matthew Golden in the first round to pair with Jaden Reed, who we saw Jaden Reed kind of save Jordan Love's day sometimes, getting a 20-yard out and the defenders fall down. He got like 2 80-yard touchdowns in one game on these fluke plays that just saved Jordan Love's butt. But then on top of that, they got Romeo Doubs, who's underrated. And then they drafted, if you don't want to see a workout freak, look at Savion Williams. The guy is just an absolute animal. I mean, he's built like, I don't want to say it, but man, he is. I hope that translates to, we've seen the Jalen Camps and other guys like that in the past who have been absolute workout warrior kind of guys. And then it doesn't really translate to the NFL, but drafting it, when you draft Matthew Golden, is he a one-on-one replacement for Christian Watson, Jim?
Well, I think that was their plan. And I think these NFL teams fall in love with the timed speed at the combine. And we know the reality that if you watch the film, he was it a 4.29? He wasn't a 4.29 guy in film. That was not even apparent. But they drafted him for that because that's what the league does. If Christian Watson, who is a big-bodied guy, was struggling in a downfield role, made an occasional catch. See, Jordan Love's not a good downfield passer. That's part of the problem. Right. So I'm worried about Matthew Golden. And if they want to use him as more, well, if you use him underneath, well, you got Jaden Reed there. And he's not really a boundary guy, but they've got Romeo Doubs there. So it's a mess. And remember, 24 pass attempts per game from week 10 on for Jordan Love. So how much is there? Jaden Reed apparently had a shoulder injury last year, and I didn't hear much about it. And I don't know how big of a factor it was. They cut his snaps from 42 in the first half of the season to 34 per game then. His production went through the floor. Since week 10 on, he had 5 games under 26 yards. I don't know what to do with him. I can't draft him, even though it's ADP's okay at 43. All the talent in the world, but unless he's going to get the ball, Matthew Golden, I do not trust a downfield guy with Jordan Love. Romeo Doubs, actually, you mentioned Savion Williams. Remember, Romeo Doubs got an in-team suspension for complaining about his role last year. Was Savion Williams a draft pick to take over the outside role from Doubs? So, look, if you're drafting in a 2022 round league, take a flyer on Savion Williams because maybe they trade Doubs during the preseason and maybe Williams just moves to an outside possession role.
That's a good point. Yeah,
John, I'm going to jump in fall off there. Yeah, I'm out on Golden. If you watch Golden play in college, I watched a ton of them. He wasn't a dominator like he was at the combine. That he does not play that fast. He really doesn't. I know there was guys that ran 4.5 something, and I was like, that guy looks way faster on film than Matthew Golden. So I'm not a believer in Golden. I'm out on him. Jaden Reed at this point, I like him a ton, but he is a best ball player. I mean, you hate to say it, he's just best ball. Like, you just don't know. We had a great comment from Brain Buzz. Said he's a 20 points or a 0 point guy. He was. And I saw a crazy stat the other day. He had the lowest routes run per 2 wide receiver set in the league. He only ran on 2 wide receiver sets like 4% was he even in the game. Oh, for a team that wants to run the ball and has Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave at tight end, where they're going to play some 2 tight end sets, and that means Reed's not going to be on the field unless all of a sudden he bursts into the top 2. And they didn't do that at all with him last year. So unless all of a sudden they change philosophies with him, that scares me on Reed. If you sold Reed last year, you're a champion. You sold him at the perfect time. If you try to sell him this year, you're gonna have to package him, because he's gonna be like, maybe you get a Packers fan that likes him, but you're just not gonna get value on Reed. I'm out on this wide receiver core altogether. I think you're gonna get Here's the thing. I just think you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be frustrated all season. You're not going to show who to play, when guys are going to show up. For me, it's Jaden Reed in best ball leagues or nothing at this point. I've got him in some lineup leagues, but he's going to be a complete bye-week fill-in injury guy if I need a week to play him. There's no way he's making it in my all-the-time lineup.
Okay, that's fine. Let's take it one step further and go to the tight ends now, because Tucker Kraft is one of the hottest names on the internet right now. And when you look at it, Tucker Kraft, get Tucker Kraft, get Tucker Kraft, get Tucker Kraft. I see it everywhere. How either one of you guys can take this one. Feel free to jump in. But is Tucker Kraft going to be a top? I mean, I've seen him go as high as tight end 5 in some tight end premium leagues. I don't think he's ever going to get that high. But I mean, JT, I'll start with you. Where's Tucker Kraft going here as far as where are you drafting Tucker Kraft? You're on the board, and there's tight ends left. Are you taking Tucker Kraft over guys like George Kittle and stuff? Not me.
Oh, no. I'm taking Kraft at value. I like him. If you're getting him in that tight end like 10 to 15 range, him, Pat Freiermuth, you getting those guys that you can kind of wait on. You get them a little later. You're like, hey, I didn't get one of the top 5 guys. I'm just going to wait a bit for my tight end. Muth is a guy I love, but I love Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
Kraft, I think, is a really nice guy. I think he could end up being realistically, I think he might push for the team lead in catches this year. I really do. I think they're going to use him a lot more. So I like him. If I'm drafting him top 5 value, I don't know. That's a little rich for me, but I do like Kraft, but I like him if you're getting him at the value. If you're in a league where people are like way overvaluing him, then I'll pass if he's going to go that high. But if I can get him in 10 to 15 range, I'm in on that.
Super overvalued. Jim, a question here. Does Musgrave ever step up and take away from Tucker Kraft? I don't think so, but
yeah, I agree with, because I thought last year, look, Musgrave was hurt and he was not bad as a rookie. And I thought for sure he would get the receiving role back to start last year. And Kraft was drafted to be the blocker. That's the way it was set up when they both were drafted in the same draft.
Exactly.
Kraft was the receiver week 1. So whatever they saw from Kraft, they gave him the job and he did nothing to lose it. I want to add one quick thing before we move on. It's that Tucker Kraft, when Jordan Love was throwing 34 passes a game, he was getting 5 targets a game. Hyper efficient on those 5 targets, because that's not like tight end 1 material, 5 targets. That's borderline. But after they went to Josh Jacobs in a run heavy approach from week 10 on, that 5 targets per game went to 4 targets per game. So if you're betting on Tucker Kraft, you are betting on extreme efficiency. And it's going to be hard on that low of targets to sustain weekly fantasy value. That's my only concern.
20% of your targets being taken away is a big deal when you're talking about that. Yeah, that's thanks for bringing that up. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Packers suck. We all know that. There you go.
Ouch.
Yeah, but okay, so we'll move. The last team we have here is the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, we'll start with the quarterback position, even though there's really one guy to talk about. JJ McCarthy, we've seen him play at Nazareth. I saw Mount Carmel make him cry on the sidelines in the state championship game. And then he went to IMG, he went to one of those premier schools, went to Michigan, and just kind of like a game manager. They expect him to come in and right from the get-go, like at least parallel or outplay what Sam Darnold did last year. Jim, is that happening? Because I don't see it.
So we need to take a look at off-season moves. Teams will tell us what they think of their situation. So what did the Vikings do in the offseason? Well, they went to free agency. They would center Ryan Kelly from Indianapolis. They signed him. Right guard Will Fries from Indianapolis. They signed him. First round of the draft, they took a guard. So they knew their interior offensive line was a problem. But they also traded for Jordan Mason. They have a quarterback. Greg Cosell thought that J.J. McCarthy would need developmental time. And last year he had a knee injury. It wasn't developmental time. So what that tells me is the organization feels the same way. They are going to play defense. And Brian Flores is going to have a butt-kicking defense out there this year because they're adding talent.
Always.
They are going to run that ball with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. And we know that McCarthy's, when he throws, will be in a good spot because we know Kevin O'Connell will scheme open receivers. So Justin Jefferson will get his. There's not going to be much left for Jordan Addison, not going to be much left for TJ Hawkinson because this team is going to run the ball and they're going to have a lot of weeks where they can maintain that game script. I don't think J.J. McCarthy attempts, if more than 400 passes, not many more.
I agree with that. That's kind of what I see too. I'm glad that's exactly how I picture him. Like not just kind of like being his regular role since he's been in high school, just kind of a game manager kind of guy. And there's nothing wrong with that role. Just don't expect that for fantasy football to win you championships. You know, Brock Purdy did pretty well with being a game manager too. So I kind of figure that McCarthy has all this talent. They tried to pay Sam Darnold to stay, and they brought in Sam Howell. And me and JT love Sam Howell. I'm not sure he's not winning a job unless something tragic happens to McCarthy. But JT, I'm just real fast. I don't mean to double back on all these players, but JJ McCarthy, where do you see him?
I actually like JJ. When I saw him at the combine, is when he really popped to me. You could just see the arm strength. You could see the ability where he was putting the ball. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. He still needs time. He needs time. He's real young. I think it's a great coaching system. I think he's going to be solid this year. I think people are going to be happy with him, but for fantasy, if you think he's going to win you a league, I don't think it's going to happen. I've got him in a lot of places, and I like him for the future. I would much rather have J.J. McCarthy than Jordan Love. I'll just tell you that right now. Yeah. But I think, to me, 3,500 yards, 20 TDs. You're hoping he stays. Usually he's not a big interception guy, so you hopefully he stays in single-digit interceptions. I think that's what you're going to get out of McCarthy. I think it's going to be a solid season. I think he's going to eventually be good, but I also think he's one of those guys that he doesn't maybe become a big fantasy guy until a couple years down the road where they now feel like, oh, we can kind of really lean on him. I think they're going to ease him in. To me, I get, and I don't think they're the same players, so don't get me wrong here, but I think the approach is going to be the same as what the Steelers did with Ben Roethlisberger. When Ben Roethlisberger came in, they let him make some big plays. They did some play action, but they really held down how many attempts he was per game. They did that his first 3 or 4 years before they really opened it up and let him start calling plays and just slinging the football. They did not do that early in his career. I think that's what you're going to get with J.J. McCarthy. I think the first couple of years are really going to be game manager, and then I think he's got the potential to be really good in the future. I am just not betting on it early on here in the next year or two.
Jim, I'm going to ask you yes or no questions, okay? Put your Dynasty Fans football hat on, all right? So you're in a league right now. Are you taking J.J. McCarthy over Dak Prescott in Dynasty Superflex Fantasy?
No.
Are you taking him over Baker Mayfield?
No.
Jordan Love? JT already said yes. Cam Ward?
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence? Don't hurt my feelings here. Don't hurt my...
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes.
Caleb Williams?
No.
Brock Purdy?
No.
Okay. And then Kyler Murray's the last one.
Probably no.
Yeah, you're kind of on that. Yeah, it's kind of right where he belongs, I guess. But I have him a little bit lower than I think JJ would have gone ahead of Ward. That's in this draft for sure. I think the same thing would have happened. But let's talk. Okay, quarterback position right there. That's JJ is the man. It is what it is. We're gonna find out what he is. But Jim, you had talked about running the ball, okay? Aaron Jones, I have him in a bunch of leagues. He's not going anywhere. You can't sell him for anything right now, and I think he's going to have a humongous year. Jordan Mason is someone that everybody's picking up to. Ty Chandler's just been a figurehead, just a kind of a spellback. How big of a year is Aaron Jones going to have this year, Jim?
I think it's a complete split of a backfield. We've heard the coach say it's a 1A and 1B. It's not a 1 and a 2. Aaron Jones fumbled, I believe, 5 times last year. If not, it was a little higher than that, but I don't have the number in front of me. I think it was at least 5 fumbles. So I think he's going to lose some goal line work to Jordan Mason. So I think Mason's the grinder. I think Aaron Jones is the pass catcher. And I think that, and Jones will get some carries, of course, but I think it's more like 5 to 7 carries tops. I think Jordan Mason gets 15 or so carries a game in goal line. So I think it's just, they're going to have definitive roles. They're going to keep each other fresh. They're both going to be very good. ADP is up 10 spots at running back later for Mason. So I think he's the value.
All right. JT, we're talking about the wide receiver position now. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Ty Felton, Jalen Naylor. I am a big fan of Ty Felton right now. I mean, the Vikings spent a 3rd-round pick to pick him up. And, as a possible 3rd receiver in this offense, what do you think about this wide receiving core from the Vikings? I mean, obviously, Justin Jefferson is the shining star of this whole team. He's one of the shining stars of the NFL, let alone just the Minnesota Vikings. But what about the rest of the receiving core?
Yeah, I think, we all know JJ is, Justin Jefferson is a beast. I mean, no matter who's played quarterback, he's put up stats. He's going to continue to put up stats. I'm not worried about him whatsoever. I've been a big Jordan Addison guy ever since he was at Pittsburgh in college. I really like him. I'm starting to get nervous about Addison a little bit. The fact that they went and got Ty Felton in the 3rd, they did need some help. Jalen Naylor, I don't want to hate on him. He's okay, but you don't really want that guy being your 3rd wideout all the time. He's one of those guys. He's a nice glue guy, but you want a little more talent out there than that. I think that's why they went and got Felton, a little more of a deep threat, so that Jefferson will. Addison, looming suspension. We'll see what that ends up being. I definitely think Felton hurts Addison's value. I have Addison in a lot of places. I like him as the number 2 to Jefferson, but how much are they going to spread the ball around? J.J. McCarthy was a guy in college who didn't throw a lot at Michigan, but when he did, he spread it around pretty well. He was never really just locked in on 1 or 2 guys and always going at those guys. So I'm definitely concerned about my Addison shares. He went from probably my 3rd starting wide receiver to now he's a flex play in a lot of spots for me. Felton, man, he's a super value in dynasty rookie drafts right now. I've seen him not even get drafted in a few areas at all. I don't think he is going to be super playable this season, but I do like him for the future. I think if you're in a league where you can stash a guy on the taxi, grab him in like the 4th, 5th round of your rookie draft, stash him for a year. I really like the future on him. I don't think he's going to give you much this year outside of him running some wind sprints hopefully down the field and catching 1 or 2 deep balls. But I'm definitely the one guy I'm nervous in this group is Addison. And I've been an Addison guy the whole time. I'm starting to get real nervous that he is going to start declining fantasy wise. The touchdowns were huge last year. It's hard to ignore it. If he doesn't score those kind of touchdowns, he's just not going to get enough target share to make him a weekly play.
All right, Jim. So Justin Jefferson is the man. And then we got running back split in time. TJ Hockenson is going to have the middle of the field wide open to himself. What are we expecting from TJ Hockenson this year? Is he in a tight end premium league, or what are we doing with Hockenson? Because he has proved that he can do it on the field. He came back from injury, was a stud. What are you doing with TJ Hockenson?
Yeah, so before I get to that, I'm going to point out one other thing about the receivers. Remember I talked about the blueprint with the offensive line got fixed. They brought in running backs. This team's probably going to run 2 tight end sets because Josh Oliver last year got signed to a 3-year deal worth about $8 million per year. So I think it's going to be a lot of Hockenson and Oliver. So they may not have a 3rd receiver. When they're leading games or a neutral game script, they may not have a lot of 3 receivers on the field. So, yeah, it's going to be a 2 receiver thing. Back to Hockenson. Remember, he was coming back from an ACL last year, missed about half the season. He had 5 games under 6 PPR points. 16th percentile yards after the catch. Now, again, he may not have been back from the knee fully. Maybe that comes back this year. He's only 28. But I still think this. I think that Hopkins is being drafted as the tight end 5. And I don't think the passing volume is going to be there. I think he's going to split targets with Addison or whoever else is out on the other outside. I think Aaron Jones is going to be part of that passing equation. I don't think the targets substantiate tight end 5. I like Hockenson on his own, but not at that cost. I don't think he repeats that. So I think if I don't get one of the top 3 tight ends that I'm not aiming for, I think I'm happy to wait till tight end 9 or 10 and take one of those guys, because I don't think they're significantly 9 or 10 outscoring 4 through 7.
Yeah, Jordan Mason is, he's, it's like 6 foot, like 225 pounds. He's a pretty big dude. So, I mean, if you're playing 2 tight end sets, that spells a lot of running up the middle, for this team too. So Aaron Jones will be more if they're going to do two tight end sets and 2 outside receivers, a lot of play action stuff going on there too with when Jones is on the field. So I like this. And JJ McCarthy, the efficiency is what you're paying for, not the volume. So, I do like that. I know he's a very accurate quarterback. I know he gets the ball where it's supposed to be when it's supposed to be there. He's got a lot to learn, but yeah. As far as the entire NFC North all combined, is there anything that stands out? I'm going to ask a tough question here now. Who is winning this division? I'll start with you, Jim.
The Lions probably have to win it. Am I worried about the coaching change with Aaron Glenn Lofts on one side and Ben Johnson on the other? Yeah, that bothers me. Am I worried about the interior offensive line? Yes, I am. But they have some massive skill position talent. The defense was a top 6 unit before all those injuries. And I have to think, like I said earlier, Rakestraw, Arnold, they were drafted high this year. They have a year of experience now. Those safeties are devastating. I think this Lions team is going to be by far the class of the division. I know the Vikings, had that fantastic record last year, but I'm going to go with the Lions here.
JT, the Lions by a landslide. What's going on? How do you feel that?
I think the Lions. I think the Lions are in this one. I actually think the Bears are going to surprise. I think the Bears finish second in this division. Even though I don't think the Vikings are going to be a lot worse, man, they just had a right run where everything was going perfect for them. The schedule is going to be much more difficult this year because of how good they were last year. I think the Packers continue to take a little bit of a step back, though. I think this is going to be one of the tougher divisions in football. I think they're going to beat up on each other. I think it's going to be really, really close, but I think it goes Lions, Bears, Vikings, Packers. And I think when I say that, I do think the Vikings and Packers probably end up with the same record. And I think they're maybe only a game behind the Bears. I think it's going to be a super close division. I think just the experience and the talent for the Lions, offensively and defensively, I think they get it done.
Jorge jumps in and says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." Well, you're you two gentlemen and me. I'm the scholar. You guys are the gentlemen, okay? But an underrated trade-off between contenders. Which side would you pick? Mike Evans and 26 fourth or a 26 first? I'm taking a 26 first in a heartbeat, but I'll let you guys answer that question too. JT, go ahead.
Yeah, I would probably take the 26 first. I mean, if I'm like a contender and I'm a wide out away, I could see going Mike Evans there. It's probably going to be hard to get Evans from somebody for less than a second. At best. So if you might have to make that move just in case. Hopefully it's a late first if you're contending and you're thinking it's going to be like a 111, 112. But I probably value-wise, I probably want the first. But sometimes you just got to pull the trigger if you're trying to win it.
Mike Evans limped his way into 1,000 yards last year. I don't think it's happened again this year. I think he's really showed signs of slowing down last year. So, Jim, what are you taking here in Dynasty League? So you put your Dynasty hat on again here. We'll talk about which side do you want, Evans and a 26 fourth or a 26 first?
I'm taking the first. And what I want to point out is last year when Chris Godwin was playing through 7 games, we saw Mike Evans only get 6.5 targets a game. When Godwin was out, it was 9 targets a game. When Godwin played, Evans had 13.6 PPR points per game. When Godwin was out, that's when Evans had 21 per game. So my thought is, and I don't know if Godwin will be full health week 1, but soon, we already saw it. And I know Cohen's gone, but we saw that Evans is only going to get this target domination if he's the only guy. And now they got Ibuka in there too. So I think you trade Evans for the age, but I don't think that target share from the second half of the season is realistic.
Not a chance. I look at that too. I think they're going to kick. Well, Chris Godwin, first of all, might start on a pup. So that's
he won't. He won't.
Okay, hopefully he doesn't. Because I love Chris
won't.
Godwin and DJ Moore are probably my 2 favorite receivers in the league. So I like to see them. But But Ibuka, I think Godwin's going to be kicked out the outside. Evans on the outside, and Ibuka's going to be in a slot going forward. Probably sooner than later, in my opinion. So that being said, even with a steady contributor like K-Dot in the middle of the field too, I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. The 2,000-yard thing is going to happen again this year, or the 1,000-yard thing is going to happen again this year. And it's not as big as a feat as it was when they only played 13 games. I mean, it's not a humongous deal anymore, but it's still an accomplishment. I'll put it that way. If they have 1,000-yard seasons this many seasons in a row, I don't want to take anything away from Mike Evans because there's no way that it's a good stat for a reason. But okay, so Jim, thanks for joining us here today, man. Where can everybody find you at? Thanks for coming out. I can't wait to see you on Saturday, Sunday afternoon at the Fishbowl. It's gonna be great. I know your strategy now, so I'm gonna take all your guys. But it's where can everybody find you at? All the awesome things you do.
Yeah, everything comes through the X at JimCoventryNFL. Threads of the day, stats of the day, all my social videos from at RotoWire kind of get reposted there, so you can catch all that. If you want access to my articles, I can get you 15% off a RotoWire.com subscription. Use the code YouTube15, set you all up there.
I mean, if you ever see Jim's writing style, you sent me a Super Bowl preview. He's like, hey, check this out. It was like reading the Bible. I was like, holy cow, this guy's got so much stuff on there. There's not a more well-prepared person than Jim Coventry if you're looking for fantasy football content written, or you heard him today. The ideas, the opinions, everything just flew out of his mouth. We didn't have a show sheet today, and Jim just came on here and nailed every question. So, JT, before I get to you, one more question. Super Bowl champion. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Because the Ravens just put themselves in a situation with another good defensive back to be a really good contender. But did that put them over the edge to keep to beat Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and become Super Bowl contenders? Or from the AFC and the NFC, who are you? JT, we'll start with you real fast. Who's going to run who's the AFC NFC championship or Super Bowl contenders, and who's winning?
Oh man, this is a toughie. We still have to do our breakdown betting show for the year, so I still need to break down all my numbers, exactly who I'm taking my bets on. So I'm not looking at the betting odds numbers here. I'm just kind of going off instinct. I really think if the Ravens are going to get it done with Lamar, I think this is the year. I think they got to get it done this year. They got another year of Henry. The defense is solid and has been improving. I think they've got enough on offense to get it done. I really think if they're going to make that push, this season's got to be the season for them. So I'm going to take the Ravens in the AFC. NFC for me, oh man, it's so hard to go against the Eagles. They've just really loaded that team up. Everyone plays well together. They know what they need to do. I know that division is slightly improved, but I think that division is still way easier than a bunch of the other NFC divisions. So I think some other teams are going to really beat up each other. I think it goes Ravens, Eagles, and I think the Ravens and Lamar finally gets the monkey off his back and wins it. I'm taking Ravens over Eagles.
They were Mark Andrews drop away from being being the big game last year. So I agree with that. Now their team only improved also. Jim, real fast, Super Bowl, AFC, NFC, Super Bowl, and who's winning?
I'm on the same, exactly the same across the board.
Yeah.
No need to embellish it.
There you go. Absolutely. JT, where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, everybody can find me on the X at Twitter at jtorange. That's where I post a lot of stuff, just talking about Dynasty. You can see on our shows. Wednesday nights on Fantasy in Frames. You can find me on Dynasty 365 talking Dynasty. You can find me on Shoot the Gap, our IDP show for people that are into that. If you're into IDP, you can also follow me at DLF. I do top 150 IDP rankings. I got my top 25 rookie rankings up there right now for defensive players. I also do Devy, so if you're into that, I've got top 75 Devy guys in case you're looking at who can I be maybe getting in next year's draft. You can jump on that. I've got all kinds of articles on there, so you can search me, all kinds of my running back breakdown. If you haven't done your rookie drafts yet, I have a whole breakdown to every player, where they were before the draft, where I have them after their draft. So you can jump in, do a bunch of that stuff. But that's usually where you're going to find me for most of my written content and my rankings. And like I said, always on here on the Dynasty Evaluation with you, Fantasy in Frames, Wednesdays. And during the season, you can find me on my show, The Stew with JT Brew, more of a betting show. I do college football betting and NFL betting on that show, so you can always check me out there on the stew.
This is Dynasty Evaluation. We go all year round. I was a redraft guy until I got into Dynasty, and I said, man, what was I doing with this redraft stuff? And then I got into C2C, and I said, man, what was I just doing Dynasty for? The rabbit hole is completely gone down. I jumped down the rabbit hole. I absolutely love it. Now, I don't do the IDP stuff, but I tell you what, man, this college fantasy football is absolutely amazing. It's so much fun to do that. We're going to all the rookie profiles we did over the offseason, me and JT and all the guests all the time. Jim, I hope to have you back on the Dynasty Evaluation Show at some point in time. You were a great guest today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. Much appreciated. We'll talk to you guys later.